Boy, is it cold outside and snowing. I'm not going out there to freeze my butt off. Instead, let's look at a GPU for GPU June of 2022. It's the Creative Labs EXXtreme, released in 1997. This is a PCI card powered by the 3D Labs Media 2 chipset, manufactured by Texas Instruments. This is a single card 3D accelerator solution, and it supports a large 4 megabytes of onboard memory, expandable by that missing expansion slot. The model number that was given to this unit is the CT6610. On the back of the card is just the serial number, and this card supports DirectX 5 and OpenGL APIs. Found this thing sitting in a box at a PC recycler while visiting a place out of town, and I had to pick it up because I've never seen a Creative branded video card before. So now's the time we have a look into it. First up is the testing rig I'll be using. It's the Baby AT Slot 1 build I did a while ago. It's got the period correct parts for a 1998 setup. Here's the spec list that you can read. Finding information on such a card wasn't as fruitful as I thought it would be. There is some information out there, but the cards were released sort of under various names and manufacturers. But retailing for around $340 Australian dollars in 1998, or about $581 in 2022. This product was hyped, with Creative's marketing team for their multimedia PC product lineup, featuring people with terrible postures and CEOs that like a little on the side. Reviews are a little mixed as well for the card. It was an all-in-one solution for 2D and 3D, as well as Windows acceleration. It wasn't a terrible product. The main issue being the 2D performance was lacking and passable 3D performance. Compatibility with older DOS titles was not good as well, and like most of these all-in-one card solutions, the CPU speed was extremely dependent, and scaling didn't scale quite as well as people would hope, especially paired with a Pentium 2. Let's have a look at some of the cards I'll be testing it against. These are the ones that I've got available. Starting from the top, there's the AGP NVIDIA MX200 I normally have in this machine. The Creative card, of course, an offering from Matrox and S3. I picked these cards mainly because they support DirectX 5, and most, as it turns out, support OpenGL. They're released around the same time as well, but also these are the only PCI cards I have to compare with. So starting off, we're going to do a DirectX 5 benchmark. I'm using the Final Reality DirectX 5 benchmark tool. This one I found online, and I'm running the NVIDIA MX200 at this point. This is a good tool, as all of the cards can run it, and we'll get to showcase each of the cards and have a look at the performance and numbers at the end. At the end of the test, we get a breakdown of what benchmark results we get, how each of the cards perform, and we can add it to our database. So it does things such as testing texture fill rate, and bus performance. I'm not actually sure how accurate these are, but it gives us a pretty decent idea. So yeah, let's check out the other cards. We're just going to run through them one by one. So here's the Creative running at the moment. We'll do the Matrox and then the S3, and at the end I'm going to calculate the averages and put them into a graph, so we'll come back then. after each of the cards have run their benchmarks, it leaves you with an overall score which you can add to a database. Once I had done that, I had added these numbers into a spreadsheet and spat out a really nice, lovely graph. But here's a sort of overall look of what you get when you run this benchmark. I don't understand the bus transfer rate and how all these are measured, but it provides a pretty rough idea, and it's not too far off, I think, off the mark. But yeah, let's have a look at some of the benchmark results. Starting from the left hand side, the main focus for me is the 3D performance. The Nvidia is the fastest, being AGP of course, but not quite as much as I thought it would be. Followed by the Creative and then the Matrox. S3 Verge is not really a 3D capable card, but does offer very strong 2D performance. And of course, I'm not sure exactly how it measures those bus transfer rates, but the S3 and the Matrox seem to do quite well on that. Maybe something to do with the memory speeds as shown before. That's enough to kick a few benchmarks off, and for that I want to play some games. So we're going to run Unreal with the Nvidia MX200. All of the cards are using the same resolution of 512 by 384, and that is mainly because the game would crash every time I went to change it. So what we're looking at now is the Nvidia card running through its game. And at the end, of course, we'll have another spreadsheet. Well, the end results on this one ended up being quite strange. The S3 Verge seemed to just come out on top on this one. Everything else seemed to scale pretty relative. The Nvidia getting about 24 FPS, followed by the Creative. The S3 does seem to cap out about 25. Perhaps there's some API trickery or something, or maybe something to do with that bus transfer speed. Not too sure about that, if I'm honest, so someone knows, let me know in the comments. But next up we'll run GTA 1, and this is running in, of course, DirectX mode. I turned the frame limiter off, and each of the cards will be running at 640 by 480 resolution with 16-bit colors.
1014 and Northeast Rockland Dock. Proceed to 1014 and South Rockland Dock. Proceed to 1014 and Southeast Rockland Dock. Proceed to 1014 and Southeast Rockland Dock.
Well, I've got the results for the average FPS count here. The creative pulls a pleasant 25 FPS game. That S3 hot on its heels. I think that 73 megahertz core over the Matrox's 66 is showing here. Otherwise, things appear to be relative still. G-Police is quite a good demo with DirectX support. There's many shadows, lighting and textures, as well as plenty of action to throw at the cards. Sadly, nothing seemed to sort of help me here aim better. I had a real hard time shooting the other enemy helicopters. The NVIDIA card, which you're seeing now, did struggle to render some textures. You'll see that sort of in the background there.
Tachikawa, I'm your wingman for this mission. Let's make it a good one, huh? Control to Alpha Wing. Clear the area of all nanosoft units. Over. Control to Alpha Wing. Rogue droids coordinates supplied to Navcom. Slater? Tachikawa, I'm your wingman for this mission. Let's make it a good one, huh? Control to Alpha Wing. Clear the area of all nanosoft units. Over. Control to Alpha Wing. Slater? Tachikawa, I'm your wingman for this mission. Let's make it a good one, huh? Control to Alpha Wing. Clear the area of all nanosoft units. Over.
Well, this is where we really see the S3 Verge struggle as we move towards 3D action gaming. The creative card seems to do actually quite well here. We're almost at 30 FPS. It did slow down a little bit, as did most of the cards when the action got heated up, but the dropouts seem to be rather quick and I didn't notice them that much. But yeah, moving on, we'll try out some Tomb Raider 2, of course running at 640 by 480 with DirectX support. Well, the results are in, and Tomb Raider 2 is quite a good one to play. Of course, the S3 Verge wouldn't run this because it's only got 2 megabytes of VRAM, but the creative card did really well actually in this one, again at 640 by 480, and the Matrox as well didn't do too bad either. We're going to try some Quake 2 out next. It's a good one to test with OpenGL support. Here it is running here on the NVIDIA EXX200. The only issue with running this is sort of a benchmark is only 2 of my cards supported it. That's the NVIDIA and the Creative card. The other 2, the Matrox and the S3. Matrox really dropped the ball with OpenGL support on their Mystique 220. So I could not get it to work, even though it technically had some sort of support in the drivers. I just couldn't get it to launch. So we're just going to do Creative, which you see now, and the NVIDIA MX200. Well, the built-in benchmark for Quake gave the creative card 15 FPS. I think I managed to get about 20 out of that when I did my sort of rough playthrough, so you can see that here. Of course, the other 2 cards are not in the running for this one. It is playable, but barely. I did see a lot of drop downs to about 13 FPS now and then. It really struggled. Again, this is a CPU scaling thing as well. We're going to play some Nuclear Strike by Electronic Arts. This is runs about the same on all of the cards, actually. This game seems to have some strange rendering techniques and caps the game at about 25 FPS. It must be to reduce the jarring frame rate drops, as explosions and stuff like that happen. I did notice as well my FPS counter, which you'll see there in the odd colours on the top left hand corner. They do lose sync now and then, and therefore the logging to the text file that I had running in the background was also missed. But I didn't perceive sort of any issues running this with any of the other cards. So, playing it game-wise, they all seem to run about the same. Well, not too much revealed in the final results. The game seems to be putting on some sort of FPS cap, and I think that's just the technology at the time. But all of the cards, however, did run the game just fine. So there's that. I sort of wanted to do a basic side-by-side comparison on sharpness and image quality and colors. So here's the NVIDIA on the left, the Creative in the middle, and the Matrox on the right. The Creative is pleasingly sharp, actually. I was really surprised by that, but the colors are a little washed out compared to the others. But this is a noisy computer, so it did really well in the image quality for me. So why were these cards not a massive success? Well, the short of it was it's a victim of the early 90s computing explosion. Technology was rapidly advancing, and looking through this terrible roadmap that I drew, cards like the Voodoo one took the load off slower CPUs like the Socket 7 and worked in advanced APIs. It was literally a game changer. Single card solutions at this point had quite a bit of work to catch up with and always had some sort of compromise. The Voodoo 2 blew the previous gains away, of course, costs and scaled much better with the faster CPUs. AGP came out on the scene around with the release of the Pentium 2 and offered fantastic performance, and that was tapped into with the likes of the Riva TNT 2 and the GeForce 256. Some of these extremely short years we're talking, you know, these are really quick years, and it really did show in the benchmarks, so the technology changed far too quick. To show you what I mean, when I say single card solutions, we're going to have a look at a quick demo. Yep, indeed, that's Quake 2 running on a slowly socket 7 machine, running at 200 MHz, but it has the Voodoo 1 attached, and this was groundbreaking tech to try and muscle in on. It took years until AGP to break that ground and close the gap. But yeah, over the last few weeks I've been working on this. It's gone to show just how far we have come with standardization. Most of the games had various issues, and there was plenty of crashes and reboots. It just about broke me. You know what? Overall, I think if the tech had moved slower back in the day, this card wouldn't have actually been that bad. It's actually one of the better single card solutions I've seen for 3D gaming, and even on YouTube I've seen this can actually run Quake 3, although it's just strapped with a Pentium 3 running at almost 1 GHz to get it there, but compatibility wise, this one actually gave me the least amount of issues. It was actually a pretty good card, and it was a joy to use and play with. Although a side note, avoid MS-DOS gaming with such a card. This really doesn't work. It has huge compatibility issues. Other than that, thanks for watching, and I hope everyone enjoyed looking back at some steamrolled 3D accelerated technology of the late 90s.